All right, let's just dive right in. If you've ever seen a heart fern, scientifically known as Hemionitis arifolia, you know exactly why houseplant enthusiasts are absolutely obsessed with it. I mean, it features these stunning, delicate, deep green heart-shaped leaves that literally look too perfect to be real. But it's also got a reputation for being, well, a bit of a diva. So in this explainer, we're going to completely demystify its care, giving you a crystal clear roadmap to keep this gorgeous foliage not just surviving, but actually thriving.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start by properly meeting the heart fern. Then we'll tackle its specific light and climate needs. After that, we'll build the perfect foundation with water, soil, and feeding, before stepping it up a notch with pruning and propagation. Finally, we'll wrap up with troubleshooting and some serious pro tips. Okay, part 1. Meet the heart fern and understand exactly what makes Hemionitis arifolia tick.
Now, the key to unlocking this plant is realizing it's an epiphyte. That instantly explains why it demands such specific, airy soil and insanely high humidity. Out in the tropical forests of Southeast Asia, this fern isn't buried in thick mud. No, it's actually clinging to rocks and tree bark, getting constantly bathed in rain and soaking up the dense moisture of the jungle air. This is honestly the single most important thing to remember. If you treat it like a standard potted houseplant, you're setting yourself up for disaster. We're basically trying to bring a steamy slice of the jungle canopy right into your living room.
The good news? It's a really compact, low-growing evergreen. It usually maxes out between just 6 and 12 inches in height and spread, which makes it an absolute dream for small spaces. Because of this beautifully compact size, it won't rapidly outgrow its container. It stays nice and bushy, sending up those wiry black stems topped with those perfect little green hearts.
Moving on to part 2, light and climate, or as I like to call it, recreating the jungle.
When it comes to light, think about its natural habitat. You want that gentle, filtered light it would naturally get under a tree canopy. You completely want to avoid harsh, direct sun. If you stick this tender plant in a south-facing window with blasting afternoon rays, you will literally scorch its leaves. If natural light is tricky in your space, you know what? They do fantastically well positioned 2 to 4 inches below a full-spectrum grow light for about 12 to 16 hours a day.
All right, listen closely because this is where beginners usually fail. The heart fern requires a sustained humidity level of 60 to 80%. That is massively higher than a standard home environment. Most of our homes hover around 30 to 40% humidity, which to a heart fern feels like an absolute desert. So yeah, this is the main hurdle, but honestly, it's completely solvable once you know the target. If you don't have a terrarium setup, you absolutely have to aggressively boost your localized humidity. Running a room humidifier is great. So is setting the pot on a pebble tray filled with water. Grouping it with other humidity-loving tropicals is another smart move because it creates a shared microclimate. And hey, if you choose to mist, make sure you only do it in the morning. Leaving leaves wet overnight just invites fungal diseases. But honestly, popping this plant into a glass cloche or a terrarium is kind of the ultimate cheat code for keeping it happy. And temperature? Stability is the name of the game here. Temperature swings or blasts of dry air will stress this plant out fast. You want to aim for daytime temperatures between 70 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, making sure it never drops below 60 at night. Keep it far, far away from drafty doors, blast-chilling AC vents, or the intense, dry heat of a radiator. Think warm, stable, and super cozy.
Okay, part 3, water, soil, and feeding. This is where we build the perfect foundation.
Remember how we said those delicate epiphyte roots rot instantly in dense mud? Well, to prevent that, you need a highly porous, airy soil recipe that perfectly balances moisture retention with rapid drainage. Peat or coconut coir is going to hold on to just enough water to keep the roots hydrated. Then, orchid bark and perlite act like the tree branches it naturally grows on, letting water just wash right through. Toss in a little compost or worm castings for a slow drip of food, and some horticultural charcoal to keep the whole environment sweet and balanced. That is how you make an epiphyte feel right at home.
For watering, you'll want to run through a very specific routine every 5 to 7 days. Do this in the morning so the foliage can dry before nightfall. First, do not skip this. Physically test the top inch or 2 of soil with your finger. If it's dry, water thoroughly. And notice, you must use distilled or rainwater. Tap water often contains salts, chlorine, and minerals that will absolutely fry this plant's delicate fronds and cause gross brown tips. Finally, let all that excess water drain completely out the bottom.
When it comes to food, heart ferns are very light feeders. We need to be incredibly conservative with fertilizer to prevent burning those highly sensitive roots. Pushing too much fertilizer will do way more harm than good.
Just use a very mild, diluted liquid feed during the active spring and summer growing season, and then cut them off entirely during the fall and winter when their growth naturally slows down.
Let's move into part 4, pruning and propagation. Time to level up your plant care. You know, pruning isn't just about making the plant look pretty. Removing overgrown foliage is vital for getting proper airflow to the base and preventing bacterial rot. The dense, mounded habit of the heart fern means the center can get incredibly congested. So grab some sterilized scissors and carefully snip out dead or weak fronds right down at the soil line to open the plant up. Just stick to the golden rule. Never chop away more than 1/3 of the plant at once, or you risk sending it into shock.
Now, what if you want more of these beauties? The absolute easiest way to propagate is by division. When your heart fern eventually gets a bit too big for its pot, which takes a while since they like feeling a little snug, you just gently tease the root ball apart into smaller, distinct sections during your spring repotting. Boom! You instantly have gifts for friends or new additions for your terrariums. But if you want a real challenge, let's talk about spores. Propagating ferns from microscopic spores is a wild, fascinating lesson in patience. See, ferns don't make flowers or seeds. They create spores on the undersides of their leaves. You have to capture these brown spore cases in a bag, dust the released spores onto moist vermiculite, and essentially build a sealed micro-greenhouse. And then you wait. It takes nearly 9 months, literally as long as it takes to grow a human baby, for them to develop into something you can actually plant. But honestly, watching that ancient life cycle unfold is such an incredible botanical project. All right, final section, part 5, troubleshooting and pro tips. Let's master the heart fern. Okay, pay attention, because this is the ultimate heart fern trap. Always physically touch the soil before you water a drooping plant. Yes, wilting is a symptom of thirst, but it's also a major symptom of root rot, because dead roots simply cannot drink. If your plant is drooping and the soil is bone dry, give it a good soak. But if it's drooping and the soil is already heavy and wet, you've unfortunately suffocated the roots, and honestly, the plant is unlikely to recover. And here is the #1 fastest killer. If you see those perfect heart-shaped leaves getting brown and crispy on the edges, you have an immediate environmental emergency. Your humidity has dropped way too low. The heart fern does not give you much grace time when the air gets dry. If you see those crispy edges, your pebble tray or humidifier just isn't cutting it anymore. Don't wait around. Enclose that plant in a glass cloche or terrarium right away to lock in that crucial moisture. Now let's talk bugs. Because this plant is so incredibly delicate, if you spot pests, you need to treat them immediately but very gently. Heavily diluted insecticidal soap or just wiping with a damp cloth is usually best. The biggest annoyance is usually fungus gnats, simply because they love the exact same moist soil the fern does, and their larvae will actually chew on those fine roots. Keep a close eye under the leaves for cotton-like mealybugs or sticky whiteflies too. The real key here is catching them early so you never have to resort to harsh chemicals. Ultimately, strictly following a few pro tips is what's going to transform you from someone who merely keeps a heart fern alive to someone who watches it absolutely flourish. When you bring a new one home, give it a couple of weeks to gradually acclimate. Stick exclusively to distilled or rainwater to avoid tip burn. Periodically wipe the dust off those broad leaves so they can absorb light properly. Use gentle worm castings instead of harsh fertilizers, and above all else, never let that airy soil become completely bone dry.
It is an incredibly rewarding challenge, and armed with this explainer, you are officially ready to take it on. Yes, it takes precision. Yes, you might need to stock up on some distilled water and maybe invest in a beautiful glass terrarium, but I promise, when those impossibly perfect, vibrant green hearts unfurl in your living room, you'll know the effort was entirely worth it. So take a look around your space right now. Do you have the perfect, humid, indirect light spot just waiting for a slice of the tropical canopy? Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and happy growing!